This week I talk about Endura gels and bars, I talk about mental fitness, and also about treating fatigue when you're already fatigued on race day. Hey guys, welcome to MotoFit TV, episode number 18. Got up to a few exciting things on the weekend, so I went to the movies, which is something I don't tend to enjoy that much, but my partner dragged me along. So went to watch the new Fate and the Furious, or Fast and the Furious movie, probably episode or movie number 10 for those guys, but went and sat through that, which wasn't too bad, lots of fast cars, which was sweet. Didn't get out for a mountain bike this weekend. But hopefully be able to go up to the hills next weekend and be able to smash through the hills if I have a little bit more time. Or make the time, more importantly, make the time to be able to get out there for some mountain biking. So today we got a few questions to smash through from a few different people. We've got a few different types of questions that have come in rather than just the usual, what do I eat, what do I need to do for training, which I'm excited to be able to elaborate on and be able to move through today. Ross asks, Endura gels, bars and the like, are they beneficial to a mid-pack desert endurance racer or only any good for a top level athlete? Awesome question, Ross. So in terms of Endura bars and supplements and any of those types of things, the main thing that you need to be able to focus on is making sure you have your nutrition nailed. And that's the most important thing. So a lot of riders and racers will automatically go for the supplement and they don't do the work with their nutrition. Okay, they go for the supplement, they don't do the work with their training. Supplement is simply that, supplementation. Okay, it's not a substitute. We're more adding on or perfecting what we've already built rather than instead of. Okay, it's not a substitute for training. It's not a substitute for eating well. Now, the biggest thing to be able to focus on here is having a look at your level of knowledge in nutrition. Okay, and where that's at the moment in terms of your training, your riding, and your racing. So a lot of riders and racers assume that they already know how to be able to eat well, okay? And they assume that that just means cutting out the shit, okay? But there's a lot more to nutrition than just not going to Macca's, not having a chocolate bar, not eating lollies, not eating certain types of foods. There's more to it than just cutting out things. There's macronutrients, which is our proteins, fats, carbohydrates. There's then being able to time them correctly, making sure we're getting adequate amounts in, making sure we're at optimal levels of body fat, and making sure we're able to tweak, modify, and find any intolerances with the types of foods that you consume. So 99.9% of the population have the same genes, okay? It's only 0.1% that's actually different between everyone. And that's the difference between one person being able to have a carton of milk and feel on top of the world, and one person having a carton of milk and needing to go to bed feeling bloated, low levels of energy, heaps of inflammation and feeling like shit. So it's important that you have a system to be able to find those intolerances in your food to make sure that you're performing well, because it's going to be much more effective for you to be able to find those intolerances and work out what works for you than it is to supplement with any type of supplement or energy bar. So in terms of using it with high level races, it doesn't really matter on your ability of riding and racing. A lot of riders and racers assume that because a rider or racer has a high level of ability, that means they've got their nutrition nailed, they've got their training nailed. Which is the complete opposite. Often it's quite the opposite because those riders at the top are very, very talented. They put a lot of time in on the bike and a lot of effort into their skills. That's what gets them to the top. It's not because they're eating well that they do well on the bike. It's not because they train well that they do well on the bike. It's because they've got the skills there. That's the most important thing. So it doesn't matter about their riding and racing ability in terms of supplementation. It matters in terms of, have you nailed your nutrition? Have you found those intolerances that are affecting your performance? Have you got your proteins, fats, carbohydrates operating in a way that allows you to perform at your peak? Then you can go and look at supplementation and energy bars and things like that to be able to give you that little bit extra. But there's much more to be gained from nailing nutrition, nailing your day-to-day food. That's where you need to be focusing most of your attention. So it doesn't matter if you're a C grade rider and you run 40th every ride or race. if you've got your you put the work into your nutrition, you've had someone help you with that, you've got your proteins, your fats, your carbohydrates sorted, you're taking in the right quantities, you're timing everything correctly, you've nailed all that, you've found any intolerances that you have and you've been able to eliminate them or substitute them with another food, then go for it. Use the energy bars and use the supplements because that's going to be able to help you. But likewise, if you're an A grade rider or you're winning Think or winning the MX Nationals, but you're still eating shit foods during the week and you just eat healthy, okay, you just eat whatever, you just cut out shit, and you don't actually time things, you don't pay any attention to macronutrients, you don't know how much food you're eating or consuming during the week, then supplements aren't going to be important for you. You don't need to focus on that. They need to focus more on the nutrition. So great question, Ross. Thanks for bringing that one up. Casey Lade asks what to eat before and during race day. Great question, Casey. So I think we've answered this one maybe on episode 1 or episode 2. So if you go back to those ones and have a look, I've got an in-depth explanation. But what you want to be able to make sure is that you don't want to have a focus with your nutrition on just the day before. You want to have a focus on your nutrition for every single day. Okay, not just leading up to race day. So a lot of riders and racers focus their attention on race day. Okay, they only drink water a couple of days before race day. They only eat well a couple of days before race day. They only cut out the beers, cut out the alcohol a couple of days before race day because they're so focused on race day, which is important, but all the real work is done during the week before race day, not leading up to. So if we're changing our diet, which we can and which will make a substantial difference out on race day, it's not going to make as big of a difference as if we had a habit, we had that behavioral psychology to be able to stick to the types of foods we needed to eat and time that correctly every day. So imagine if you were eating the right types of foods, but you did that for every single training and practice session. Imagine how much more intense they would be, how much more focused, how much more you get done, how much more energy you'd have, a whole heap of things. And then you can bring all the results from that into your racing, which is going to give you the big benefit. So in terms of what I can give you for the night before, you want to make sure that for majority of people, we're using complex carbohydrates and we're increasing our intake of those. So things like sweet potatoes, brown rice, quinoa, we want it from good quality, natural produce sources. So you don't want to be focusing on things like breads and pastas and milks. Okay, you want to be focusing on good quality, fresh produce. Especially the night before and the morning of, that's where we want to focus our attention. That's our energy tank for riding and racing. That's where you want to focus your attention. You want to make sure that one's full. So if you're just eating like steak and veggies the night before, probably not going to help you too much on race day because we're missing out on maximizing our fuel tank for race day. So there's a couple of things to work on, but the main focus is focusing on day-to-day food. Don't focus just on the race day or what to do a day before. Focus on what you need to be doing every day because that's where the real results are. Nicole Corney asks, mental fitness, key skills on how to keep other riders out of your head and focus more on your own race. Awesome question, Nicole, and I'm glad you asked this one more, the mental aspect, because it's something that a lot of people overlook, or a lot of riders and racers overlook, and especially all the questions we come in, everything's based on tactical stuff, but all that tactical stuff is controlled by what's happening up here. It's the mind that's most important. So in terms of having other racers in your head, the reason that is happening is because you're putting them on a pedestal. You're assuming that those other riders and racers are better than you. Okay, they have some sort of ability, some sort of talent, some sort of trait that you don't possess, that you don't have. So the best way to be able to overcome that, and this is something I learned from Dr. John DeMartini, who is specializes in like personal development mindset work with high performance for not just sports, but for different areas in terms of business and other areas of life as well. So he's worth checking out and having a bit of a look at if you want some more content on that. In terms of what he talks about is when we get nervous, when we get anxious about competing with other people or having other riders and racers there, is we're putting them on a pedestal. We automatically assume that they've got more ability, they've got some sort of trait that you don't possess. And that's what gives you the anxiousness or nervousness, because you're getting out there on the track and you're automatically assuming that that person's better than you, they've got an advantage on you, when they don't. So what we need to be able to do is you need to be able to list out, first of all the traits that that person has that you feel you don't have. So if you're going out and riding or racing on the weekend and you're racing Ricky Carmichael and you're shitting yourself because you feel that Ricky Carmichael is going to smoke you, what you would do is you would list all the traits that he has that you feel you don't have. Maybe you feel he has a factory team, he has a partner, that's very supportive of his training. He has a mechanic that's very helpful and knowledgeable. He's had a mum that was able to school him and help him with all his training as he was younger. And maybe you didn't have all those types of things. So you need to go through all the areas of their life. Okay, now this does take a little bit of work. Most people won't do this. They'll see the video and they'll skip over it and that's it, because the actual hard work is in doing the exercise, not just listening to me. So what you need to do is find those traits in multiple areas, whether that's in relationship, whether that's in family, whether that's in work, whether that's in writing ability, not just specifically in writing, but all areas of their life. And find the traits that you feel, sit there for a while, sit there for half an hour and come up with a list of traits that you feel that they have, that you don't have, that you don't possess. Now, once you come up with that list, what you need to be able to do is go through every single one of those traits and find a time or experience in your life where you've demonstrated one of those traits. Okay, so there may be a time where you say Ricky Carmichael's been really successful and he's won a championship when he was young. What was a time when you were younger where you won a championship or did really, really well at a race? Okay, so you need to be able to go through your life and find where you possess those traits. You need to go look at those traits and then drag them across and find times in your life where you've experienced them. And what that will do is get your mind to actually perceive the situation differently. Rather than perceiving that person as having things that you don't have, you're now able to pull your mind to be able to show yourself and show your mind that you actually do possess these traits, which brings that other person down to your level, which means that anxiousness and nervousness leading up to riding, leading up to racing, isn't going to be so much of an issue because you've already demonstrated those things. It's going to give you a lot more confidence going into your riding and racing. So very important, that one. So literally get pen and paper and write it down and spend the time there, okay? It's all well and good to listen to this and talk about it and it sounds wicked, but it doesn't work if you don't actually do the work. So important, pen, paper, schedule half an hour of your time and put that aside, even an hour, and go through everything and put in the work, because you're going to notice great benefits from the mental side, the mental component of riding and racing. Kyle Thompson asks, is there any way to combat or fix race fatigue on race day? Say you're already fatigued. Great question, Kyle. So once you're already fatigued, so for example, if you've had a multi-day race or you've trained hard during the week or you do other sports and that's affecting your riding and racing, the biggest thing that you can work on is make sure, number one, you're putting in good quality foods, fruits, meats, vegetables, okay, not processed stuff. You don't want chemicals and shit going into your body. That's the first thing. The next thing is then working on hydration, making sure you're getting plenty of water in throughout the day. So you want to work on roughly 40 mils of water per kilo of body weight. So heap of hydration. So there's studies that have shown that a 10% decrease in hydration can actually result in up to 40% decrease in performance. So if you're going into race day and you're 10% dehydrated, that's up to 40% of your work capacity that you're losing. So hydration, very important. And the next thing is then working on some mobility and flexibility work. So you can go on my YouTube channel and have a look, and there's a heap of stuff on there in some of the older videos. But you want to work on things like foam rolling, want to work on some mobility, want to work on doing some movements maybe that you practice at the gym, like things like squats, some push-ups, maybe some sit-ups, maybe just moving around. Pretty much you just want to move. You're not doing a full-on training session on race day. Just promoting blood flow, promoting movement, and also promoting recovery as well. So great question. I'm glad you sent that one in, because that's a very good one in terms of fatigue, because that's something we haven't talked about in terms of actually having fatigue already and being able to deal with that. So great point. So we're also, before we wrap up today's episode, we're taking in our next intake for our motorsport development program. So we take in 10 riders and racers for each intake. So a very select group of riders and racers to come into our motorsport development program and work together with me in terms of their training, mindset, mobility, nutrition. We work through absolutely everything. So we have 10 spots available, or there'll be a couple, obviously less left by the time this video gets out to you guys. Hit me up if you're interested, if you feel that that's something that's going to be helpful, if you want to see if our development program is a good fit for you and we can see that it's something that's going to be able to help. Send me a PM, let me know, we can send you some more information, catch up for a call, run through your training model and see if it's something that's going to be suitable. So if that's you, send me a PM, we can catch up for a call. Otherwise, look forward to seeing you guys next week. Great episode today. Have a great weekend and I'll see you next week. See you guys.